On the night of October 18, 2025, the world of professional wrestling gathered its breath as AEW WrestleDream 2025 unfolded at the Chaifetz Arena in St. Louis, Missouri, one of the most anticipated events on the calendar for the promotion All Elite Wrestling. Among the many matches slated to thrill and shock the audience, the main event promised to deliver a violent, climactic, I Quit showdown between two of the company's most daring competitors, Jon Moxley and Darby Allin. And yet, for many fans and critics alike, something felt different about that climactic battle. The carnage was present, the weapons, the chaos, but one unmistakable element was largely missing: the deluge of crimson that often accompanies the most brutal contests. For an event celebrated for pushing the limits, this absence raised eyebrows. Now, new reporting has shed light on why the bloodletting was held back, revealing not a creative decision, but rather a set of external restrictions that reshaped the fight in real time. WrestleDream has become a flagship event for AEW, a night where high drama meets high stakes, where feuds that have simmered for months erupt in explosive fashion. According to its official description, WrestleDream 2025 featured 13 matches including the main event, Darby Allin vs. Jon Moxley in an I Quit match. From the first bell of that main event, the expectation was everything fans have come to love, and at times loathe, about extreme-style wrestling, weaponry, blood, dramatic near falls, high-risk spots. And while many parts of the match delivered, some elements were noticeably muted. Aside from a brief early blood capsule spot, the bout lacked the typical heavy bleeding that often defines these sorts of matches. According to one report, the only bleeding was in the Darby match when they did the blood capsule at the very beginning of the match. That statement carried weight, especially given that AEW and its main eventers are known for delivering hard-hitting, brutal spectacles. So what changed? What prevented the flow of crimson, the crowd reaction, the expectation of blood for impact, from playing its full role? The answer lies in the location and the overseeing athletic commission. WrestleDream 2025 was held in St. Louis, Missouri, and according to multiple sources, the local regulatory body, the Missouri Office of Athletics or Commission, had in place a series of restrictions on wrestling matches that significantly impacted what the performers could legally do. In particular, the commission prohibited certain forms of bleeding or blood capsule usage unless disclosed and approved in advance. They placed limits on brawling in the crowd and use of foreign objects intended to cause lacerations. Officials present at the live event were reportedly on high alert, monitoring the behavior and ready to intervene if rules were broken. In the words of one insider via the reporting, they ran in St. Louis, and the St. Louis Commission had a bunch of restrictions: no bleeding, no brawling in the crowd. Because of these constraints, many of the more extreme spots that might normally have resulted in heavier blood or mass chaos had to be scaled back or abandoned. It's not that the performers lacked the will or intent, they simply had their creative hands tied by the regulatory framework for that locale. Let's turn to the match itself. The I Quit stipulation between Moxley and Allin promised everything: tables, chairs, thumbtacks, weapons, a potential spectacle. The match did deliver plenty of mayhem: skewers, chains, even a controversial fish tank spot where Moxley attempted to drown Allin. Yet the bleeding component, the imagery of crimson being shed in brutal contests, was held back. The only significant blood identified was an early blood capsule moment. After that, the spots continued, but the audience did not witness the deluge of red they might have expected in such a fight. As one report phrased it, the only bleeding was in the Darby match when they did the blood capsule at the very beginning of the match. Further, insiders pointed out that the match ended somewhat abruptly, cutting off post-match celebration and commentary, owing in part to time and regulatory concerns. In all, the match offered the brutality and spectacle, but with a noticeable restraint, meaning the extreme label was still there, yet the full visceral impact from uncontrolled bleeding was lessened. This development didn't go unnoticed by fans or industry watchers. Some viewers expressed disappointment, feeling that the absence of more visible blood diminished the intensity of the match. Others understood the behind-the-scenes reasons and lauded AEW for still delivering a strong contest despite limitations. On social media, comments began trending about the regulation and how events in Missouri seemed to force a different style of presentation. One Reddit commentator noted, Brian Alvarez reported that the location put restrictions on them about bleeding and brawling in the crowd, which is why we didn't see either. From the industry side, the revelation reframes the narrative. Rather than a creative decision by AEW to tone down blood, which could have disappointed the Extreme Wrestling faithful, this was an external constraint, one that fundamentally shaped what the match could become. Emotionally, there is a bittersweet dimension. On one hand, the match still delivered the passion, the physicality, the story of two men at war. On the other hand, the unseen element, the deeper smear of crimson, remains a what could have been for many fans. The implications stretch beyond one match. For AEW, running a major PPV in a regulated jurisdiction like Missouri requires creative adaptation. If wrestlers and producers know ahead of time that certain spots or blood-heavy takes will be restricted, the storytelling must evolve. Here are several takeaways. 1. Venue and commission matter. The location of the show can dictate what is permissible. AEW clearly encountered a commission with stricter oversight than some other venues. 2. Creative versus logistic tension. Wrestlers and producers may want to deliver maximum impact, including blood, extreme spots, brawling in the crowd, but are constrained by logistics. 3. Audience expectation versus reality. Fans expect a certain level of extreme for main events like Moxley vs. Allin. When elements are missing even for valid reasons, the perception can suffer. Transparency helps. The reporting that revealed the regulatory cause helps shift blame away from AEW's creative team and toward an external agency. That transparency builds trust with the audience. 5. Adaptation is key. AEW must continue delivering high-intensity content, but ensure that the storytelling can flourish even without relying on heavy bleeding. Matches must stand on their narrative and athletic merit, not simply on red fluid. There's also a cautionary note. If a commission intervenes mid-match, the spectacle can end awkwardly or prematurely, something AEW wants to avoid. Thus planning, pre-approval of spots, disclosure of blood capsule usage, and clear communication with the regulatory body become crucial. At its core, this story is about the clash between raw emotion and hidden boundaries. The match between Darby Allin and Jon Moxley was more than a physical fight, it carried months of build-up, storylines of betrayal, redemption, survival. The promises made to the live crowd and to fans around the world demanded the most brutal expression of that war. And yet, behind the curtain, a simple document or commission ruling reframed the battle: forbid the splash of red, limit the chaos, watch the timing. It's a reminder that even in the world of kayfabe, where spectacle reigns, real-world rules matter. Imagine a fighter stepping into the ring, knowing that certain blows are not only disallowed but will bring the watchful eye of regulators. The energy shifts. The performer adapts. The audience senses something is different. And in that subtle change lies the emotional impact. For Darby Allin, stepping into that ring meant everything. For Jon Moxley, the fight was a testament to his persona: hard-hitting, no nonsense. For the fans, the promise was carnage. But the final product had to navigate the boundaries of law, commission, logistics. That tension, between expectation and constraint, is where the heart of the moment lies. It's not just about the missing blood, it's about what that absence represents, the invisible chains that even the boldest performers must sometimes obey. In the end, WrestleDream 2025 delivered a memorable main event. It brought high risk, high drama, surprise appearances, and explosive spots. Yet, the reason for the absence of heavier bleeding wasn't a creative misstep, it was a regulatory reality. As revealed through reporting by industry insiders, the Missouri Commission's rules effectively muted one of the hallmarks of extreme-style wrestling for that evening. For fans, it's a nuanced moment. You celebrate the fight, you ponder the missing element, and you appreciate that behind the curtain, there were limits. For AEW, it's a moment to adapt, to evolve, to show that even when one dimension, blood, is restricted, storytelling and athleticism can still shine. If nothing else, WrestleDream 2025 becomes an emotional marker, the night when the red tide paused, not for lack of will, but for the simple fact that someone said, "No, not tonight." And that tension, that silent, what might have been, adds a layer of emotion to what was already a fierce battle between two warriors.